All right, welcome to this episode of MathMeowTics. In these episodes that I'm going to do a series on are going to be over the 2015 to 2019 Texas STAAR. And on these first few questions, I'm going to be going over specifically the TEAC 8.2a, which is determining the domain and range of a linear function in mathematical problems. So, and one of the things that we need to do is also look at whether or not it's continuous and discrete and how to represent it using also inequalities. So if we look at our first question here, we got a student who's working out at a gym continuously for 50 minutes. And the graph shows the remaining percentage of the workout as a linear function of x and time in minutes. Okay, we have our y-axis and our x-axis, so that's pretty clear cut. And we have our linear equation. So now let's look at what the question's asking us. It says, which answer is the best choice that describes the domain and the range of the function for the situation? Okay, so we know that the domain is going to be our x values, and we know that the range is going to be our y values. So now let's look about talking about writing and determining what those values are. Now this is a continuous function that's limited by where it's beginning and ending. So it's not going into the negative region, it's only staying in the positive region. Because as you can see here, this point right there is that point at 100 and also that point there at 50. Those are our graph limiters. Those are limiting the graph that it's a continuous function between 0 and those limits. Okay, so we have in terms of our domain, those are all of the x values that are limited from 0. So we're going to start at 0. We're not going to go below 0. And then we're going to continue all the way up to 50. Because that's the highest x value. Because we're looking at our x values. And that's the highest x value that x can be in terms of our domain. Okay? So that is our domain. And if you notice, I also put the x value here. That's letting me know, that's my other clue, that this is my domain. Now, let me see. Can I eliminate any of my answer choices just by looking at my domain and just by what we just discussed? Yes, I can eliminate B and I can eliminate D because they have -2 in it. And we discussed and we already said that we're not going to go into the negative region. So we can eliminate B and we can eliminate D. Technically, we probably don't even have to necessarily look at our range. Let's see. It says domain is all real numbers greater than or equal to 0 and or less than or equal to 100. Domain, that's the x. Well, we just said the x values are from 0 to 50. So by that, then that can't be our answer choice. So we've eliminated that answer choice. So by default, C has to be our answer choice. But let's look at it. So all real numbers greater than or equal to 0 or less than equal to 50. Okay, our range, that's true, so that's true. And all real numbers greater than or equal to 100, yep, we've got 0, or greater than or equal to 0. And let's look at what our maximum percentage, because this is the percentage remaining, our maximum percentage is going to be 100, because your percentages, when you're talking about 100% of time, you're looking at from 0 to 100. So this is also true. So C is the correct choice. All right. So let's go to the next question. We're still dealing with domain and range. We're going to be dealing with domain and range for a couple of these questions. And I'm going to only try to do 2 questions per video. The domain and range, again, the domain is our x values. The range is our y values of f of x is equal to -37. Okay, I'm going to graph this just so that I can talk about this because I think it's important that we discuss what exactly this means. All right, so I need to graph f of x is equal to -37. That's the same thing as saying y is equal to -37. Now, and I'll go more in detail in another video, but this is a horizontal line. So this is a horizontal line at -37. Y is equal to -37. Okay, now let's talk about our domain. If I pick whatever value, whenever we have a function and we're not limited by our domain and range like we were in this first question, we have limits. We have a defined limit at 100%, 0 to 100, and we have a defined limit at 0 to 50 for our domain. Okay, well, a function does not have a general function An abstract function by an equation does not have a defined limit. Okay, so what that means is that my domain is going to be all real numbers. Now, the reason that this is, the range of this is not also not all real numbers is because the slope that's happening, if I were to talk about this as a slope-intercept form, the slope on this is 0, okay? So that means that we're not rising or we're not rising or decreasing, we're staying horizontal, we're staying on the ground. And so if that happens, then that's going to mean that our y value isn't going to change like it normally would if I were to give you a function like, say, 2x plus 3, okay? If I were looking at this in terms of this, y is equal to 2x plus 3, both my domain and range would be all real numbers. But in this case, because if I go here and say negative 5,000, this point here on this line would be negative 5,000, comma, negative 37. If I were to pick another x value and go in this direction and say 1 million, then that's going to give me the coordinate point, let's say down here, this is going to be 1 million, negative 37. Okay, that would be the coordinate point. So the domain is any real numbers, so we can eliminate A, we can eliminate B, and those are the only two we can eliminate based on the domain. So now, but the range, just like we were talking about, it's limited. Unlike other functions like y is equal to 2x plus 3, functions that have a slope other than 0, they are not limited. But this one is limited, and it's limited by that y value only negative 37. So my answer choice has to be D. All right? See you in the next video.